they're not really getting it. So,
Mm.
okay, so we can start. To start recording. Okay, so thank you all for coming. For the ones who are new to Cloudhoods, just want to tell you that we are a community of like-minded women. Basically, we're all about supporting each other. We connect together over common topics. We share thoughts, we share experiences. We get support from credible experts such as Noona around parenting, mental wellness, professional growth. And through that, you can just feel empowered by networking with other women and getting the proper coaching to achieve any goal or to get motivated to go back to work. And today we're going to start our people pleasing session with Noona Nafousi. She's an intuitive life coach. She's also a corporate executive coach. And whether you struggle with people pleasing in your personal life or your career life, she's the perfect person to handle this. So, Noona.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Laura. It's such an honor to be here and talk about people pleasing. It's actually one of my favorite topics to talk about because us women are generally such people pleasers. And as a recovered people pleaser myself, I totally understand how crippling it can be, constantly saying yes to people, not putting yourself first, feeling real guilt when you don't want to do something, but then doing it anyway. So I really want to talk today about why we people please, because I think, first of all, it's understanding that you're not alone. It's something that happens to so many of us. And I think just understanding why we people please will be very, very important to get some insight into that. The second thing I'm going to start talking about is how people pleasing can be really damaging. And once we understand the damage that it can cause to us, then we can really start understanding how to start changing it. Because if we don't, the only person that's going to suffer is us, unfortunately. And then that trickles into the people around us, our children, our relationships, our work and everything. But it's us who are going to suffer. And then I'm going to give some tips on how to start saying no and how to stop people pleasing. So I think that will be, and then at the end, we're going to have some questions. So if you have any questions that come up, just pop them into the chat and then I can cover them afterwards. So let's start with why we people please. And if we all go back and remember, for me, it was quite a while ago when we were little girls, and we are brought up to be a good girl. And we are brought up to listen. And if we want our mum to be happy with us, if we want our dad to be happy with us at school, we have to be good girls. And what did good girls have to do? They had to put what they wanted to one side and listen to others. We have to really sacrifice our wants and our needs. No, come on, be a good girl, share your toy. Be a good girl. You have to share. You have to share. Be a good girl. Stop. I don't want to hear what you want. It's not about you. You have to listen to me. And when we are told this over and over again, suddenly what happens is we start believing that for us to be happy, we have to make other people happy. And that opens up a whole realm of discussions about codependency, but it also, what it does is really diminish our self-importance. And it makes our self-importance based on other people being happy. If I get good grades, my mum will be happy. My dad will be proud of me. If I be quiet and I say yes, go and give your auntie a cuddle. I don't want to. No, give her a cuddle. It's rude. You know, we have in the Arabic, ayab, like this is the favorite word that happens. You know, ayab, ayab. And we're shamed into doing things what we don't want to do. It's so subtle. And, you know, don't say that. You can't answer me like that. You can't say it diminishes part of our personality. And then we wonder why we grow up not being able to say no. Can you make a cake for my friend, for the party you're coming to? Can you make a cake? Well, no. Yeah, sure. Inside you're like, why did I say that? Can you pick up my son on the way home from school and drop him to mine? Inside you're like, no. Yeah, sure. And before we even know it, we're not even allowing ourselves to be heard, because we don't know what we want anymore. We don't really know what we desire, what brings us joy, because in the end, what brings us joy is saying yes, making other people happy. And we forget. So this is where it can stem from. And it's important to know this, because if we're bringing up children as well, we are the generation that are teaching our kids in a different way. We've got all this mindful parenting coming, but I feel that the difficulty with us is that we weren't modeled that as children. We weren't modeled how to parent the way we wanted to be parent. So what we do is we're kind of stuck in between. And so this is where all of these kind of conversations are really, really important, that we're all in the same boat. So why do we people please? This is why. We're taught to be good girls, and we're taught, and in doing that, we forget who we are. We forget what we want. We forget our desires. We forget our needs. The other thing about realizing why we people please is because, and this is generally because our self-importance is low. Now, a lot of us have a really big heart, and when our heart is really big and our self-importance is low, then we give and we give and we give, and it's not important that we put ourselves first. So what I'm going to talk about today is how to raise your self-worth to match how big your heart is. Because then what happens, if your heart is big and your self is big, there's a balance. But if your heart is big and your self-importance is low, you will be exhausted. You will be resentful. Nothing that you will do will ever be enough, because you're constantly trying to prove to people how important you are when you don't believe it yourself. The other thing about self-worth, the other thing about people-pleasing is the reason why we people-please as well is because our self-worth is low. So we want people to like us, to fill the void that we have inside of ourselves. So if we don't feel good about ourselves, we don't love who we are, it's a little bit like, say, this is our self-worth, and I'm going to hand you this and say, can you touch all these buttons so that I feel good about me? And you might touch a button and it's like, oh, that doesn't feel good, but keep doing it, because one of them may feel good. And what we want to do is turn this control back to us. We control how good we feel. And the thing about raising our self-worth is so often we do things so people can say, well done, oh my God, that's so good, you're so amazing. But if our self-worth is here and we do more and more and more for people, it doesn't matter how much they say thank you, it's not going to match how low our self-worth is. And that's why what happens is we never feel like we can do enough. And we also feel like nobody is grateful enough for what we do, because our self-worth is so low that no matter how much they say thank you, no matter how much they say they are happy with what we've done, it's never going to match how low our self-worth is. So we're really going to talk today about how we can raise our self-worth. So this is why we struggle with people-pleasing. Low self-worth, low self-importance, and we are taught to be good girls. And then when we come into adults, how do we go about with that? Okay, so why is people-pleasing so damaging? Now, people-pleasing can really affect the relationships that we have with people, because what happens is we do and we do and we do and we give. And we keep giving because we want people to tell us how much they appreciate us. But because we have low self-worth, no matter how much they tell us they appreciate us, it's never going to be enough. So what happens is we then, as people pleasers, and I am a recovered people pleaser, so I totally understand how hard this is. And what happens when we have really low self-worth, we keep doing and doing and doing, Their thank you is never enough. And generally, people pleasers have a lot of resentment. We really resent people in the end because it's like we put ourselves out so much to do things, and you just said thank you. Like, what? Thank you? That's enough? Do you know how much I suffered in picking up your son, in doing this party, in having a play day? Do you know how much I went against every single part of my body to say yes for you? And you're just saying thank you? That's it? No more? And why do we do this? So we build resentment towards people. It's not their fault. We said we wanted to do it. We put so much of ourselves out to say yes. And then we're resentful that they haven't gone, oh my God, thank you so much. And even if they said that, it still wouldn't be enough, because the amount that we had to do, the dread that we had to pull ourselves out of to do it, because we want that. So we want people to love us, because we want all of that. No matter how much we want them to say thank you, it's never going to be enough because our self-worth is low. So we have resentment. And we will have resentment with our partner. Generally, it's the husbands that get it. Resentment with our partners, with our mums, because especially with mums, we could do so much, and now you're just fine with how exhausted I am. You're just the thank you. So we build a lot of resentment to the people that we do things for, because we have depleted ourselves. We are so depleted from saying yes to everybody and saying yes to things we don't want to say yes to. We're depleted. And when we're depleted, we create resentment. So we create resentment towards our partner, resentment towards our family members, resentment towards our friends, because we always say yes. They keep taking and taking. And then we feel resentment because it's like, why do you keep asking me to do things for you? Well, we keep saying yes. So one of the things about people pleasing, it creates very unbalanced relationships, because when we have resentment, a lot of people pleasers as well, and this was me, is we become what's the result of resentment? It's anger. We snap. And we can snap because some water has spilled on the table, but actually we're not snapping about a small drop of water. We're snapping about the ocean, because we are so exhausted. And a lot of people pleasers say, oh, I go from 0 to 100. And if you think 100 is like screaming, going crazy, you're just screaming because you want to be heard, you want someone to hear you, it's like rage. And 0 is like, oh, I'm so calm, everything's so good. We are never 0 as people pleasers. Can I just say, it is never 0. It's never like, oh, of course I'll do this for you. No, we are always at 50-60 anyway. We are always at 50-60%. Because we are, and then actually I would say as people pleasers, we're probably at 80%. So it really doesn't take much for us to go to 100, because we're depleted, we're exhausted, we're so tired of saying yes, we're so tired of giving and giving and giving. So it creates this relationship with people where they're not real. We're being nice because we want you to like us, but we don't like us ourselves. So it doesn't matter how much you like us, it's never going to raise our self-worth. So the other important thing, the damage that people pleasing does, is we're not living an authentic life. So your friend will say to you, do you mind looking after my son while I go for my dentist appointment? You already have 3 children at home. You've already agreed to another play date. And you say, yeah, sure. And in your mind, you're thinking, oh, God. So you've already said yes. And you speak, she's like, thank you so much. You're like, it's fine. Don't worry. Anything for you. Lie. Oh, I love you. I love having your son around. Lie. So not only you're constantly having these inauthentic conversations, showing up inauthentically, your friend thinking like, oh my God, I have the best friend, she's so kind. You in your head are thinking, I cannot believe she's asked me. She knows I've got 3 other children here. You in your mind, and then your husband comes home, how was your day? Awful. Can you believe what she did? She actually asked me to look after. So now you're bad-mouthing your friend who you said yes to, but now you think that she's so selfish. So now you're being really horrible about your friend. And actually, it's a relationship of really inauthenticity, rather than saying, do you know what? I've got 3 children here already. I can't. Oh, that's okay. I'll ask someone else. What? That's all it took? And generally, that is all it takes, because people are very resourceful. They are very resourceful. They will find a solution. But we end up thinking that if we say no, people won't like us. But when we say yes, we don't like them because they've put so much pressure on us. So there's this relationship that's really inauthentic, and then what happens when we people please? We look at these women who say no and we're like, oh my God, who does she think she is? She doesn't do anything for anyone. She's so selfish. But actually, deep down, the reason we're a bit triggered by that is because we wish we could do that. So the women who we look at and think they're a bit selfish, they only care about themselves, those are the strong women. Those are the women who are also really very real, because when she says yes, you know she means it. You know she's not going behind your back saying, can you believe she asked me to do this? She's saying yes with all her heart, and she doesn't expect anything in return. And the thing about people pleasing is when you learn to say no, and we're going to go through tips on how to say no, when you learn to put yourself first, you end up having much more deeper relationships with people, because you love them for who they are, not for how they make you feel about yourself, not for how much they can appreciate you, because you appreciate yourself enough. You put yourself first enough so that when you are with someone, you're enjoying their company. You're enjoying not, because she hasn't said thank you, she hasn't appreciated me, she doesn't like me enough. All of that goes. You just like them for them, not for what they do for you. It also really strengthens the relationship with your partner, with your husband, with your parents, because suddenly the relationship becomes, well, a lot more honest. And the other thing about people pleasing is we take the chance, we take the, think of it like this. Have you ever done something for someone without people pleasing, but done it from a place because you really, really wanted to, like really genuinely? And they said thank you. And even if they didn't say thank you, it didn't matter because you really wanted to do it. When you give someone the ability to help you out, to do something, you're giving them the chance to feel good, because people like to help people. We do. And I'm not talking about people pleasing. I'm talking about, we are a species that are meant to be together. We are at the end animals. We are meant to help each other. We are a community. So when you don't ask for help, when you don't say to someone, can you help me? Can you take this off me? Or when you're not honest with them and say, I feel like I'm drowning. I don't feel good. I can't do this. You're taking the ability and the joy of someone to be there for you. Like really be there for you. And it is so nice to be a good friend. There is a joy in helping people. There is a joy in being a good friend. So when you take that ability away from someone, you're depriving them of that joy. You're depriving someone of saying like, I've got you. You know what? I just really can't have your son at the moment. I am exhausted. Oh my God, of course. No, that's fine. I'll find someone else. I would never want to do that to you. And people will get it. Mums will get it. Your friends will get it. So how do we get to that point? Now, the first thing to do is to first be aware. Be aware of how often you're saying yes when you mean no. And I now have a rule for myself. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. Honestly, it's like I come first. It's me. Because if I'm depleted, if I'm exhausted, if I am riddled with guilt, then I'm not going to show up as the best version of me. And everyone here, say for example today, if I kept my kids at home, if I did too much, I would be showing up here as 50% version of myself. No one deserves that. Every single human being deserves to see me. Okay, we are mums, we're never going to be 100%, but at least let's aim for 80. An 80% version of myself. I deserve that. Because at 80%, I'm great. At 50%, I'm really no good to anyone, especially to my children, especially to myself. So start listening to your body. Your body will tell you, okay? And you will start to know. I started to feel in my body what feels like yes and what feels like no. So what I would do, and this is, we could all do this really quickly. If you just, everyone just close their eyes and put their hands on their hearts and just think about your child and just think, do I love my child? Yes, of course. Where does that yes sit in your body? Is it in your throat? Is it in your heart? Is it in your stomach? It's like, yes, I love them. Of course. Do I wish them safety? Yes. It's like you can feel it. That's your yes. That's your yes. Now, think of something that you know the answer to is no. So for me, God forbid, it was like, do I want my son to break his leg? Obviously, no. But everyone think of their own, which is your no. Like, think of something that's no. For me, it's like a quick no. I feel it here, like no. So your body knows yes and no. It knows. So when someone asks you to do something, if you struggle to know if you want to do it, ask your body. Do I want to do that? Yes. Okay, great. If it's a yes, then your second question is, do I want to do this? If it's a yes, sure that you want to do it even if no one says thank you. Especially if no one says thank you. Because then what you're doing it for you. You're doing it because it lights you up. It fills you up. It makes you feel good. So if someone says thank you, it's a bonus. And if they don't, it doesn't matter because you wanted to do it. If it's a no, it's a no. A no is a complete sentence. Can you look after my son? No. And what we do, we come up with all these excuses. Well, shall I tell her that I have this? And shall I make... You really don't have to. It's just a no. And the thought, then what happens is we know what feels good. Because have you ever had it? You've said yes, and then you feel anxious, and then you're wondering why you say yes, and your stomach is going, and your throat is clenching, and then your back is off, and you're just like, the day finally comes, and you've said yes. And all of that is so unhealthy for our body. It's these trapped emotions. And it's like, that creates anger, that creates the anxiety. Now imagine what happens is we know in our body, if we want to say yes or no, we normally say yes, even when our body's like, say no. You're like, no, I'm doing like, no. And we say yes. And then we wonder why we have backache, why we get headaches, why our body's like, why are you doing this to me? So then when we want to say no, then our mind starts with guilt. Oh, isn't guilt our best friend? But guilt, wow, who created guilt? And then the guilt comes. Yeah, but what if you say no? But they need you. And what happens is we'll say no. If we say no, we feel guilty, and then we overcompensate. We say yes to something else, which is 10 times a bigger no, because we feel so guilty. And it's this guilt that we have to be aware of, that it's a very dangerous emotion, guilt. It keeps us playing small. And guilt serves nobody. Doesn't serve you, doesn't serve your family members, but it is a great tool to keep you in that tiny, tiny little box that you want to keep yourself in. Because the opposite to guilt is owning it, power. You are in your power. And a lot of us women don't feel comfortable sitting in our power. Feels uncomfortable. Like, this is where your self-importance comes from. We have big hearts. We have to have an equal amount of self-importance. Because with a big heart, like I said, and low self-importance, you're giving, you're giving, you're giving, you're giving. Your self-importance has got to be big to match your heart, so that when you don't want to do something, you are important enough to keep your body in health. You are important enough to do what you want. So check in with your body, know if it's yes or no, and if it's no, say no. And it is going to feel uncomfortable, and your body is going to want to keep you where you are, because we are not used to stepping into our power. Own it. And this is the next thing that I want to say. Be willing to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be uncomfortable. The only reason we're uncomfortable is because our body's not used to it. Like, oh my God, what are they going to say? Are they going to hate me? Oh my God, I said no. Oh my God. That's okay. It's going to feel, and it should feel uncomfortable, because you're doing something different. You're growing. It's a bit like when you wear a new pair of shoes. They are so uncomfortable in the beginning, but you've got to wear it in. And by about a year, when you want some new shoes, or every other day if you like shopping, by the time you start wearing them, you can't imagine having another pair of shoes that fit so well, because you've worn them in. You've done the hard part. You've created a relationship with these pair of shoes. They fit you like a glove. That's exactly what it's like when you take on a different persona, when you step into your power. It's like, oh, that feels weird. Oh, it feels powerful, but it feels weird. Okay, it's all right. And literally, this is how you do it. I'm okay. I just said no. It feels so good. Oh my God, I feel guilty. It's okay. And as we're approaching the summer, as we are going to be with in-laws, as we are going to be around our children, as we are going to be around so many friends, this is the time where we need to learn to say no and learn to be real and authentic with the people around us. And it's okay. And this is stepping into our power. And unfortunately, when we're little girls, we're told, be a good girl, listen to everybody. If you want to be loved, out of your power, out of your power, out of your power. And you as a little girl, like, no. We were so powerful as little girls. I don't want to. You have to. No. You see little children, they are so in their power. They are amazing. They know when they want to do something. These are powerful human beings. But you have to. No, I don't want to. Good for you. Also, I'm like, wow. Learn from your children. Look how much they own what they want to do. And then we as adults are like, no, you must listen. So embrace that little girl inside you. I call her like baby goddess. Bring her back. No, don't want to do it. It's going to feel uncomfortable, but sit with the uncomfortable. Start small. Start with your small little nose, and then get to the big ones. And it is practice. It's not going to happen overnight, but just know how important it is for you to step into your power, to own yourself, your decision. And afterwards, people will adapt so much easier. What happens is our thought of saying no is so much bigger than the reality. And the only reason our thoughts are so bad about it is because we have low self-esteem, low self-worth, and low self-importance. So if we think we'll say no, we think the whole world is going to fall over and collapse. And try it. Say no, and then suddenly the person will be like, oh, okay. And you're like, what? That's it? They're okay with this no? Yes, they will be okay. They will be more than okay. Okay. So I think that's everything I wanted to present today. So if anyone has any questions, let me know. Lara, I don't know, I can't see the chat.
I just have a question. I just wanted to ask you, what do you do with pushy people? Because really, some people don't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
Would be like really surprised. For example, because it actually happened to me when I started in my entrepreneurial journey and I started working from home, and suddenly you become a babysitter for all your friends who are working from an office. Like, okay, you have 2 kids, but you can take on an additional kid if I send him with the nanny. Why is it that you would be surprised how like the how people answer back. So what do you do?
This is where you've got to be really willing to be uncomfortable. They weren't uncomfortable to ask you. They're not uncomfortable to be pushy. So you could be just as comfortable to answer them in the same pushiness. They don't care. And generally what happens is people can sense, they can smell your energy. If your energy about yourself is like, okay, maybe, they can smell it a mile away. You can see in the room who is willing to do more than the other person. They don't even have to open their mouth. See these women who walk into the room and they just look powerful. Not arrogant, but it's like everyone's like, what is she's magnetic. There's something about her. She owns her self-worth. She doesn't even have to open her mouth. She walks in and she's like, you wouldn't ask her to go to the bar and get you a glass of water or whatever. There's something. It's not that she's arrogant. She is comfortable. That if you asked her, she would say yes if she wants to and say no. So for me, it's about when you change how you feel inside, there's an energy that people can see, because there's about 15, 1.5 centimeters or meters around us. It's like an aura that people can feel. When you walk in the room and you can tell if people have had an argument, we can pick up on the unspoken things. That it's doing the inner work of being comfortable with being uncomfortable, saying no, knowing that if they are being pushy to you, that you can be just as much pushy back. But the only reason why it's probably stopping you is because it's like, but I don't want to be like that. Sometimes you have to be mirror back to them. No, I have a business. I'm not a babysitter.
Exactly. Sometimes you want to be polite, but also you want to hold your grounds. So it's tricky.
Yeah, and it's being really comfortable with saying, I'm going to say no. And what happens is that, and I've seen this with a lot of my clients, when they raise their self-worth, when they raise their self-importance, sometimes their friends who are not a match for that strength will go. Because it's like, but I need you to say yes to me all the time so that I can use you, so that I can do this. And you won't even have to say anything, because it's the way you hold yourself. It's your self-importance grows. And this is very different to arrogance, to putting yourself first. This is about being magnetic. It's like, I really think women are magic on legs. Women who are able to hold their power are magic on legs. They're like magnetic. Everyone wants to know who they are. And when you start building your self-worth, there are people who will not be a match for you anymore. And that's okay, because they were only willing to take and take and take anyway. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Definitely.
I have one small question.
Yeah.
How do you know and separate actually be acting and saying yes out of being liking to be kind and versus doing stuff just like to please the people? Like
Yeah.
I personally like to be kind, or I if maybe I'm kind of nature, but and versus uh, people pleasing.
Yeah. I love this question. Such a powerful question. If you're okay with no one thanking you, you're doing it because you're being kind.
Okay.
So if you are willing to buy, if you want to buy someone a present because you love them so much, and whether they are going to be like, or you don't care because you know that they love, it's something you want to do, that's kindness.
Okay.
But if you're doing it, and I sometimes now have to, because there's a very, very thin line. And as a recovering people pleaser, I find it sometimes where I want to overdo it. Like what I've done is enough, but I want to do more. And I have to check myself back. Like, why do I want to do more? Because I want them to be really happy. Do I want them to be really happy, or do I want them to love me a bit more? I check. And it's being kind, but it's overly kind. It's like going that step above. And I really notice myself. It's like when I'm with my friends, we went to my friend's house and she did dinner for us. And everyone was just sitting there. And I got up and I helped her put some of the dishes away. And then I thought, oh, maybe I should help her put the dishes in the dishwasher. I wanted to do that bit more, and I noticed where it was coming from. It's like I wanted to be seen as the polite one, the one who extra, and I thought, but I don't need to do that. I'm not. And I could feel the people pleaser in me, like wanting to come out again. And so I sat back down, regulated my body and my nervous system, and reminded myself that I love myself enough without having to put some dishes in a dishwasher for my friends to like me. It can creep up in the slightest way, and you like, oh no, it's good, I've done enough, I've taken it here, I've taken it. So just check in with yourself. And as empaths and kind people, it's it can creep up. It's very, very sneaky like that.
I have
Noona,
one.
I have just another. Oh, sorry. Come, go ahead,
So,
Jessie.
okay, so I when my son, who is 11, has a friend at home, I tend to tell him to always let his friend choose. Like if I say, "What do you want to have for lunch? Do you want burgers or pizza?" I know my son likes both burgers and pizza, but I tend to tell him, "Let your friend choose." And the same applies to what activity I have for them in the afternoon. So, am I instilling in him people pleasing, or am I teaching him coming here to see how to host a guest, how to be, because I obviously would give him options that I know he likes, but
Yeah.
he tends to be a little bit upset about it. I'm like I also have a voice, but I
Yeah.
tend to explain to him like, he's our guest. We want to make sure he's comfortable. He won't be able to tell us, openly, but I know you. I know what you like. I know what you dislike. So I would never suggest something that you dislike. So is this okay? Is this coming? I don't know, teaching
Yeah.
him values, or am I instilling people pleasing in him? You know what I mean?
Yeah, see, it's a little bit of both. And also check with your intention. Are you doing it because you don't want his friend to like him any less? It's all about intentions. And I noticed this as well, that my daughter kept wanting to give a gift to her friend every time she came. She's like, here's a toy, here's a toy. And in the end, I said to her, why? And she's like, well, because I want her to like me. And then I stopped her doing it, actually, because I think she wanted her to like. I thought I really had to watch that. Are you doing it to, yes, you said to make your son feel comfortable. If it's someone who comes around often, you can say, okay, last time you chose, this
Right.
time your son. If it's upsetting your son and he's like, but I want to choose, then maybe on some level he's feeling that he's not being heard because someone else's opinion is more important. So
I mean, right now I discuss it with him prior to the visit. I'm like, listen, Matteo, I'm just gonna like, because I want to make sure your friend is comfortable. You know, he doesn't have his mommy over, so he can't run over to his mommy and tell her if he's not happy or something. So we just want to make it feel comfortable and happy. And you know, I just said it to him before the visit, so now he's accepting it more. I just want to make sure I'm not instilling people pleasing.
It's a thin line, but it's also when he has a friend round, the friend doesn't get to be in control the whole time.
Right, of course.
Because, you know, just because we're inviting a friend round doesn't mean they get to choose the lunch and they get to choose the activity and they get to do all this. So in the end, we have to just sit back and accept it all. So it can be, look, you got to choose your lunch. If they want to watch a cartoon or something, so why don't you choose? And It's also okay for our children to have an opinion with a friend.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
So I would maybe do the food, yes. Another activity you get to choose, another activity you get to choose, so that your son doesn't end up thinking that when someone else comes around, his
opinion doesn't matter. Right. Yeah. Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. Any other questions? Oh, Lara, you were going to ask the question.
Actually, my question was similar to Jessie's. I just wanted to know the difference for young children. How do we do the difference between impacting them negatively as them becoming people pleasers and raising them kind with values? And also with teenagers, it's a bit, sometimes they get a bit manipulative, like, you taught me not to be comfortable in my own skin, not to do the things that I don't want to do. But sometimes you, as a parent, you need them to step up and do things that are within your culture, within your values, or sometimes that are beneficial for them. So how do you do this transition?
It is a really tough one, and it's like I was saying to Jessie, so much of it is our intention. So are we wanting our children to behave so we look good in front of others? Or are we wanting them to instill these values because it's going to assist them later in life? You know, it's very tough. Both of my children are very, very opinionated, and they're very strong personalities. Now, that's going to be great when they're in the big, wild corporate world, all of that. Not so great for me right now. And it's a very fine line of, I don't want them to lose their voice, but I also don't want them to think that they can just rule this house. So it's, what are my intentions? I think for me, I had to look at the bigger picture and have a bigger context when it came to my children. Do I just want to raise well-behaved children, or do I want to raise strong adults who I want to hang out with when they're older? And when I raised my context with them as adults, I'm raising adults. I'm raising that. Does it really matter if they're saying something that right now is very hard for me to hear because I'm a mum, but in the greater context of things? So I think raising the context that you have for your children takes us away from these small little things. Values, yes. What are your values as a family? What are your values as a mum that you want to install? But do these little things that we, like, notice how many times we say no to our children in the day. Don't do that. Don't do it like this. Hurry up. Do it quicker. Like, oh, if someone says no to me that often, and I noticed it when I was doing my coaching, my coach said to me, notice how many times you're saying no to your kids. It was a lot. Don't brush your teeth like this. Do it like this. Do it like, and I just thought, oh my God, I've got to stop. So it's, and when I raise the context of what I was doing with my children, I'm not bringing up kids. I'm raising adults. And yes, the values part are important, but you don't want to take the spirit of them out, because right now it would be so much easier if I had really obedient children who did everything I told them, never answered back, never raised their voice. But actually raising those type of adults, I will raise very submissive adults who will be bullied and not be able to hear their own voice. And so there's a balance. So I've started thinking of it as I'm raising adults, and I'm going to have some tough moments, because I wasn't raised like that. I was raised like shush. I mean, my mum would just look, just a look, and I would be quiet. Totally different generation.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Does anyone have any other questions?
If anyone wants to pop up, unmute themselves and ask, or just ask in the chat, we can send. Meanwhile, I'm just gonna mention that we're gonna take a bit of a break in August from events and talk. Everybody's else traveling, and I think everybody needs a break. And we'll be back in September with a lot of exciting stuff. So please stay tuned on Cloudhoods, Instagram, and the app for sure. It was such an informative and honestly insightful talk, Noona. I personally took a lot from it, and I'm looking forward for another event with you and talk as well. Please do send question if anyone wants to, and yeah, that's from my side.
And if anyone wants to reach out to Noona, you can. All her details are on our Instagram and on our app. And Noona, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, no, just to say thank you. It's a really big topic. I could talk about this all day, and I think if all us women, were just owned our power a little bit and stopped apologizing so much, we would all live such more fruitful, authentic, beautiful lives. So I'm on the app as well, on Cloudhoods. So if anyone wants to contact me on the app as well, I'm on there. If you have any questions, and just use this summer to. You're going to have so many opportunities to say no a little bit. So baby steps.
You just canceled half of my summer plans. That were
Sorry.
that were actually on my mind.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Absolutely. Honored to be. Thank you for inviting me. I really love it.
Thank you, Noona. Thank you so much. I was hooked to every single word you said. Thank you, girls. Thank you, Cloudhoods. It was really, really very insightful, very interesting.
Thank you, Jessie.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Have a great day, guys, and a great summer. That was great. Now I have to just say no to my husband. All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. It was really nice having you here on. Thank you, and see you very soon. Bye, everyone.